looking at that now, those possible rate cuts for anyone at home listening right now, when do you think we will see them?
The most honest answer I can give you is I don't know, but I'll try to make a guess. And I don't think that they're going to happen in the first quarter. Now, ANZ actually came out last week and they've joined CBA in saying February is on the table. I agree it's on the table, but I'm just not sure that the RBA is going to do it. I think the RBA would rather get the confirmation that the jobs market's weak than risk going too early and looking like fools when the jobs market doesn't slow down and inflation rises again, right? So I actually think it's going to happen mid-year. I think it's more of a mid-year story. I think they're going to have to wait and see how the Christmas trading period went. They're going to have to wait and see how the jobs market is. Now, I say that because last week, everyone was expecting the US jobs market to worsen, but it actually came out better than expected. So again, the economy is strong. Things are going gangbusters, but it hasn't slowed down yet. It will slow down. So I actually think if you're an investor and you're banking on rate cuts, I'd probably shoot for mid-year. And if it's an earlier surprise, then so be it. But we've got an election coming up. It's going to cloud things a little bit by the RBA. If they move pre-election, it's going to be seen as political. If they move after the election, it's going to be seen as critical. That's why last year they made it very clear that, hey, listen, all we're concerned about is inflation and the jobs market. And we don't care about the other stuff. They do, but they've come out and said that they're the two main things. And inflation has softened, but the jobs market hasn't softened. And it's all about jobs. So to answer your question, mid to third quarter, we could start to get some of that interest rate relief.
Yep, fantastic. Tell me about the Sydney property market. Now, you're a Sydney boy and still residing in Sydney. How do you foresee the Sydney market playing out in 2025 for everyone at home?
So I'm not only a Sydney boy, a Sydney snob, and I'll wear that proudly. I think Sydney is the best city in the world and one of the best cities to be investing in at the moment. And not everybody agrees with that, but I stand by that. And I say that because real estate is a network asset, right? So real estate is about the value of the network. And the bigger the network, the more valuable the real estate. Now, what is the network? It's investments in infrastructure, it's population growth, it's employment, it's where the money is going. It's when, all these AI companies that are supposedly going to emerge over the next 5 or 10 years in the US, when they come to Australia to look to sell AI to everybody else, where are they going to open up their offices? Right? I think it's going to be Sydney. So that's why I'm a Sydney snob. And that's why I think the Sydney market is a great long-term market to be investing in. It's a market that has hit fatigue, but I actually think, again, that's a good thing, right? And a normal human body, if you go work out, you're going to get tired, right? Someone who works out continuously and doesn't rest is unsustainable. They're going to crash and burn. So I'd rather a market that has a slowdown and value opens up and things start to balance, then a market just runs hot, because you've seen it. We all know what happens in real estate markets that run too hot. The party goes away. So Sydney market, I think, is coming down. There's going to be different parts of the market. Apartments have been a real underperformer in Sydney over the past 10 years. But every builder and developer I talk to says the same thing, that the replacement cost to build this housing is just too high. All right. So I see long-term value. I think apartments are a great investment in Sydney. They've been on the front page of every newspaper. Every current affair episode has, the journalist chasing a developer or a builder that has built a dodgy apartment in Sydney. But that's maybe like 3 to 5% of the total stock, right? Not the 95%. Yeah, so Sydney's in slowdown.
Yeah. See, the under replacement value metric is something that I use all the time. And Sydney in that sub-$1 million category is going to remain strong, and it's going to continue performing because it's affordable. It's below replacement value. And a lot of those older red and cream brick, smaller complex units that you can buy in the suburbs are a great investment right now. And look, I absolutely agree with you there. The only thing is, some of the yields aren't the best, but Sydney's going to continue to perform. It's an absolute powerhouse. Obviously, being based in Brisbane, and we've watched Brisbane go from strength to strength, and a lot of internal migration interstate, right? So people from Melbourne and Sydney moving to the Southeast Queensland region has absolutely helped that market, grow the way it's grown. So we're going to continue to see that. So I'm super excited to watch both of them.
I agree. I think Brisbane's a great market, and I remember selling Brisbane, investments in Brisbane in 2015 and 2016, and nobody wanted to touch on with a 10-foot pole. And the reasons were there was always a reason not to go into Brisbane, right? It was the floods. It was a global financial crisis, and then that fizzled out, and then they got hit with the floods. And then the floods passed, and then we had the mining industry, which came off. A lot of that mining in the Bowen Basin, a lot of that mining slowed down, started to impact the Brisbane market. And then they had the oversupply, every front page of the newspaper was about oversupply. And then what happened? All that got thrown out because what happened? Everyone moved to Brisbane, right? So the network grew. That's why I say real estate is a network asset. Brisbane's success has been a function of the people that have migrated to Brisbane and built that network, because when a family moves there, puts their children in schooling, gets new jobs, that is a 4 or 5 person network that's now embedded, right? And so that's why I think Brisbane has been so successful because of that. And Melbourne has lost the network because all those people, guess what? Guess where they came from? They came a little bit from Sydney, but Melbourne was the world's biggest prison. And they ran away from prison, and there's a bit of trauma there around what happened in COVID. There's resentment. If you ran away, you don't want to go back unless you really have to, right? So Melbourne lost out permanently to Brisbane, and I don't think there's going to be a reverse. Melbourne's game now is all about net new arrivals, which means Melbourne's going to be different to how it was 20 years ago. The people that lived in Melbourne and the network in Melbourne is going to look different because you're bringing in different people, and they're going to behave differently, and they're going to want different things. So those networks are changing, but they can both be great markets.